Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about storytelling. I first want to let you know that with this, I want to kind of show you that this is a TV, my computer's here, so you can hook it up through HDMI. If you have a Mac, you might have to get an adapter, different things like that. But this is just a basic TV, so you can hook it up to a TV and do different things like that when you're doing your informative or persuasive speeches. Know that you will need to have a visual aid, such as PowerPoint on a TV or on a screen or something like that. So start thinking now of what to do. Now we're going to kind of start talking about storytelling. I want to let you know that storytelling is something that we briefly talk about later, and there's a reading in it. And the reading also talks about other special speeches, such as toast at weddings or different things like that. So you can go ahead and read that chapter now, the section about storytelling. It's very, very small. So if you read it, it can help you. But know that we're going to be talking about it today because, first of all, I love it, and I find that stories are important. So with the importance of storytelling, everyone is a natural storyteller. Walter Fisher is a theorist, and he talks about narratives and how everyone is a natural storyteller. I know what you're thinking. No, I'm not a natural storyteller. Yes, because you go and tell your friends about your day. You go and tell your friend about how exciting something was, or you went to go see a movie or a class or different things like that. That is storytelling. When you go and watch a movie, that is storytelling. And the importance of storytelling is all around us, and it has been here since day one. Native Americans passed down stories, and they used stories to talk about the world around them, which we do as well. And cavemen, way back when, were telling stories using their basic drawings. So storytelling is how we pass information from one culture to the next, or how we pass information from one generation or one person to the next. Storytelling is how we get a lot of our information, not just literature, but also how we get math and science and different things like that, because you're showing. A lot of times when you think of your math class, you might find that a lesson worked really well because they were able to apply it to real life. They're telling a story about how math works. Some of you might not find that as great, and it might just be better to be like 2 plus 2 is 4, which is great, and that's your way of learning. But know that storytelling is all around us, and we use it constantly throughout our lives. Now, with stories, you need to make sure you have these parts. First, it's your involvement. If you're not telling a story about you, if it's about your grandparents, then you can say, oh, I'm going to be telling you a story about how my grandparents fell in love, such as Ed Sheeran did this in one of his songs, and he even talks about, these are my grandparents. Okay? Again, music is storytelling. You need to talk about your involvement. If you were in there, tell me that you were a part of the story, that you're the main character, or that this story was passed down to you and different things like that. Know that for this speech, it needs to be a story about you. Okay, so you're going to be talking about your involvement because you are the involved person. You're not going to be saying, I'm going to tell you a story about how my grandparents met. You're going to say, I'm going to tell you a story about something that happened to me. But storytelling, a lot of times you can say, I'm going to tell you a story about how my grandparents met, or I'm going to tell you a story that I heard when my mom told me, or something like that. Character roles. At the very beginning, you need to let us know who the characters are. You don't have to let us know who all the characters are, because as we know, some characters aren't as relevant as others. But when you're looking at character roles, you need to let us know that I'm going to be telling you a story about people X, Y, Z, and I'll give you an example in a second. And then setting. That's very important. Let us know where it's at, what the setting is, and how important it is. Okay, if you just start the story and you just start talking about it, yes, we can use our own imagination, but setting is very important. Okay, because if you're talking about being in the mountains and skiing, then I might be thinking about water skiing. So let me know that you're skiing on the mountains so I can picture it easier. Now, you don't have to get so specific with settings that we can't use our imagination and help picture it, but certain things you need to be able to describe. And if it's a really important part of the story, you need to make sure that you're describing it in detail. Now, the main themes. You need to make sure that you talk about the main themes, and that's part of your body, which we'll discuss in a little bit. But your body, there are certain main themes. Some stories have 2, some have 20. Okay? But there are certain parts of the main themes that really need to be prevalent. So when we look back at the story, we can say, oh yeah, that story talked about boom, boom, boom. And if those are the parts that you want everyone to remember, you need to make sure those are your main themes. Now, the life lessons to learn is one of the most important parts. Stories that are looking back at lessons to learn are stories that can live on forever. The importance of stories, let's go back to someone as big as Disney. Now, Disney is still prevalent today, but Disney uses a lot of stories, and a lot of his stories have been adapted from others, such as Cinderella was from the Brothers Grimm. Now, the Brothers Grimm story has been different, and Disney adapted it to what we know Cinderella is today. Looking at other Brothers Grimm stories, we can look at the Little Red Riding Hood story. Now, Little Red Riding Hood, the story has adjusted to fit what it is today. But know that back then, the story was prevalent, and it was still, the idea of it was to teach kids to not to talk to strangers, because stories are great life lessons. Now, here's a basic form of how to outline. You're going to still need your three main parts: intro, body, conclusion. Within your intro, you're going to need a grabber. Okay, have you ever wondered about not to talk to strangers, or have you ever wondered about how your grandparents met? Well, today I'm going to tell you. Again, your story needs to be about you and not how your grandparents met. But that's it, grabber. And then you're going to have your thesis. And your thesis could be, well, today I'm going to tell you. Okay, that's a great thesis. A lot of times you would want to say, today I'm going to tell you a story about boom, boom, boom. That's such a basic thesis, but it's still a thesis, and it's so prevalent. So make sure you have a thesis saying, I'm going to tell you a story about la, la, la. Okay? And then your last one is going to be the overview. A lot of times your overview is you explaining the setting. Well, this happened in this time as boom, 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 boom. Okay? And characters that are involved are a girl with a little red hood, her grandmother, and a big bad wolf. So let's get into the story. Okay? And then you have your introduction done. That's a very small introduction, but it kind of gives you an umbrella to talk about your body. In your body, you're going to have your main points. Going back to your previous speech, your introduction speech, you had the 3 items that you could pull out. Those 3 items would be seen as your main points. So instead of items, now it's going to be main points. Again, you can have 2 main points, you can have 20 main points. With this speech, you probably won't have 20 main points, but just know that you can if you think it's relevant. Now with these, you're going to say, here's my main point, and give a brief description of it. And the main points, again, are going to be the main takeaways you want people to leave with your story. When they leave, they're going to say, oh yeah, that story consists of main point, main point, main point, main point. And then the conclusion. The conclusion still has 3 parts, just as the introduction did, but they're flipped. We discussed this when we go over outlining in more detail a little bit later. But again, I just want you to have the basic form for this speech. It's more so practice again, just make sure you have it. But at the end, you're going to be talking about the life lessons. What was there to learn? Okay? Now, with this, I'm going to now rotate, and I'm going to tell you my story to give you some more information. Okay? Have you ever wondered about how people learn to stick in there with life? Well, I'm going to tell you a story about how I learned to hang in there. It involved me, my mom, my dad, and, well, a goat. Now, when I was a little kid, I always wanted to show it within 4-H because my mom is able to show within 4-H. And with that, my mom was able to show in 4-H. I apologize. My mom let my sister do 4-H. Now, my sister's older than me. So with that, I'm able to look at the excitement that my sister had. And when I'm able to be in there, I'm going to go forward and be excited just like my sister had. Now, I'm in 3rd grade, and I'm finally going to be able to show in 4-H. I'm going to show a goat. Now, realize when I'm in 3rd grade, I'm about this big, okay? Now, I'm going to be showing a goat, and the goat became my best friend. I would go out and talk to the goat every day. I would walk it around, and I would work with the goat. I would do everything just like my dad taught me. And the goat and I, we bonded. We were like best friends. He knew all my deepest, darkest secrets because 3rd graders, have deep, dark secrets. But he knew all my deep, darkest secrets, and I loved that goat. I would tell him everything. We would walk around together. We would exercise together, and it was great. Now it's the day to show the goat. We go up there, and if you don't know anything about 4-H, they weigh the animal so they can put you in different groups for each animal. Well, we weigh my goat, and he was the biggest goat that year when we were showing. So my goat was the biggest goat, and I was the smallest kid. Now with that, made my mom a little bit nervous. So right before we went to go out to walk the goats around to show them to the judge and different things like that, my mom looked at me and said, please do not let go of the goat. Because she was nervous that the goat was going to run off and, go into the street or, I don't know, go into the empty field that was all around the arena that we were showing in. But still, she was really worried that I was going to let go of the goat because it was so big, because I was really short, the goat was really big. My dad goes in there with me to help me out. Well, as we're showing, something freaks my goat out. If you know anything about animals, when they get freaked out, they tend to run. Well, my goat started running, and what did my mom tell me? Not to let go. So I'm here holding on, and the goat's running, and I'm then all of a sudden running and saying, ah, because the goat's running, freaking out, and I'm not letting go. So my mom's screaming, let go, let go. And I'm looking at my mom saying, don't worry, Mom, I'm not going to let go. Well, finally, my dad is able to grab the goat along with the other people who are out there helping. My dad grabs the goat, we show it, and I end up getting third place. And it was great. And then we take the goat off with other goats, and I look and I wave bye because my dad told me to say bye to the goat because I'm never going to see him again. And I'm like, Dad, where's the goat going? And my dad looks at me, well, where the goat's going, that's a story for another day. So that's the story about how I learned to hang in there. It involved my mom, my dad, me, and yes, the goat that was a lot bigger than me. And I just told you about how I learned to hang in there, and that lesson has stuck with me forever. So with that, that was my story about how I learned to hang in there. So if I would outline it with a very basic outline, it would be something like this. So I would have the intro, okay? And then I would have my grabber would be, have you ever wanted to hang in there, okay? So that would be my grabber. And then I would have my thesis would be something like, what did I say? Today I'm going to tell you about how I learned to hang in there, okay? And then I have my overview. My overview was kind of talking about who was involved, the main people that were involved, and then kind of that I was excited about 4-H, okay? And then I have my body. And then with my body, I then go in, I talk about the main point. So it's main point 1, okay? So my main point, you wouldn't write main point. You would write something about 4-H, okay? And then you would do a very brief description. It could be a couple words, it could be a couple sentences, it doesn't matter. So a brief description about excited for 4-H, okay? And then I would go, and my next main point might be the goat. And then that I explained how the goat and me became best friends. So that could be my description. Goat and I became best friends, okay? And then I would go and about showing, okay? That could be it. And then my next main point would be my mom saying not to let go, because that was the main point in the story, okay? And then my next one would be something like, my mom said, or then the goat started dragging me, and my mom was like, let go, and I didn't, and they finally got him, okay? And then I ended it with the goat going with the other goats, leading to that he was about to go get butchered, but that's a story for another day, because I only wanted to tell you one story, but I wanted you wanting more, okay? And then I would have that, and then I have my conclusion, and the 3 parts would be, again, I would have my overview, and I talked about how my mom, my dad, and all of them are involved about me learning to hang in there, and that was the thesis, was the story about me hanging in there. And then the grabber now turns into the last words, and it's so you hang in there or something like that, and that's how I learned to hang in there. But that would be when you do your life lesson, okay? So that's the basic. I know it's kind of hard to see that, but I kind of gave you an idea, and hopefully that walked you through it. So that's the basic outline. That's the basic story, okay? It's just a basic story about you. Find a funny story, find a sad story. It doesn't matter, whatever type of personality you have. Just talk about a story like that and do a quick basic outline. The outline, I want to see if you're attempting to have the main points. I'm not going to be deducting points if you messed up here or there because we haven't went over outlining. I just want to see you attempt it, okay? In your story, I want to see that you're attempting to have all of this. I do this story as the first graded one because everyone's a storyteller and everyone can talk about what they're doing, okay? If you have any questions, email me. Other than that, there's your lesson for your storytelling speech in your example. You have a great day. Bye.